Good morning, students. Today we are going to study the second part of the chapter Lost Spring. The first part was based on the problems faced by the rag picking children, and in this part we are going to study about the problems faced by the children engaged in the glass bangles industry, especially in Firozabad. Here, the name of the main character is Mukesh. He is also a child. Right? So, here we start. I want to drive a car. Mukesh insists on being his own master. I will be a motor mechanic, he announces. Do you know anything about cars? I ask. I will learn to drive a car, he answers, looking straight into my eyes. His dream looms like a mirage amidst the sun of streets that fill his town Firozabad, famous for its bangles. Every other family in Firozabad is engaged in making bangles. It is the center of India's glass blowing industry, where families have spent generations working around furnaces, welding glass, making bangles for all the women in the land, it seems. So here ends the first paragraph. Let's analyze what we find in the first paragraph. Now, when we compare the initial lines of the lesson with the concluding lines of the first part, we find a contrast in the thinking and personality of Sahib-e-Alam and Mukesh. The last line of the first part reads, he is no longer his own master. And here, in the very beginning, Mukesh insists on being his own master. Right? First thing. Second thing, you may remember, if you go back to the first part, when Anis Jung asks Sahib-e-Alam, why do you do this? And Sahib-e-Alam replies, I have nothing else to do. Right? He mutters, looking away. But here, Mukesh looks straight into Anis Jung's eyes. That shows his confidence and his determination. Right? Sahab has no dreams, but Mukesh has dreams in his eyes. And dreams always represent hope for future. So, the very first question that can be asked is, what does Mukesh want to be, or what is Mukesh's dream? This may be the first question. You can note down and try to write the answer. I am going to discuss the answer anyways. Mukesh insists on being his own master. I will be a motor mechanic. And in the very first line is, I want to drive a car. So what does Mukesh want to be or want to become? He wants to become a motor mechanic, first thing, and he also wants to drive a car. And why is his dream restricted to driving a car? You will find it towards the end of the article. Now Anis Jung asks, do you know anything about cars? I ask. I will learn to drive a car. This use of will shows his determination. He answers, looking straight into my eyes. I have already explained, it shows his self-confidence. Now, Anish Jung says here, his dream, Mukesh's dream. And what is his dream? His dream is to be a motor mechanic and to drive a car. His dream looms like a mirage. Mirage means false appearance. False appearance. His dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of streets that fill his town, Firozabad, famous for its bangles, right? So Anish Jung here says that it seems that Mukesh will never be able to fulfill his dream or achieve what he wants, because everywhere in Firozabad he sees only one thing, and that is bangles. Only bangles and dust from bangles, nothing else. That is why his dream to be a motor mechanic and drive a car seems unrealistic or impossible. It seems like false appearance, right? Let's move on. Every other family in Firozabad is engaged in making bangles. It is the center of India's glass blowing industry, right? Where families have spent generations working around furnaces, welding glass, making bangles for all the women in the land, it seems. Right? This is the introduction of Firozabad. Let's move on. Mukesh's family is among them. None of them know that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures, in dingy cells. It is not dingy, it is dingy, right? D-I-N-G-Y, dark, dingy cells, small rooms without air and light, that the law, if enforced, could get him and all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces where they slog their daylight hours, often losing the brightness of their eyes. Right. Before I explain these lines and analyze these lines, let's go towards the end of the lesson and find the questions written in Think As You Read. Question number 2. Mention the hazards. Hazards means risks, R-I-S-K-S, risks of working in the glass bangles industry. So what are the risks involved in working in the glass bangles industry? So now let's analyze these lines. People engaged in glass bangles industry are not literate, they are not educated, and they are not aware of the rights that they and their children have. They don't know about the laws also, that it is illegal to engage young children in such a hazardous industry, and child labor is banned. Nobody knows about it. So here Anish Jung writes, none of them know that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures. One thing, unfavorable working condition, high temperatures, right? The temperatures of the furnaces, in dingy cells without air and light, highly unfavorable working conditions are there in Firozabad for working in glass bangles industry. There is no air, no fresh air, no light, and rooms are very small, they are dark, and the furnaces are also high temperature furnaces where glass is blown, right? So for these children and even for the older ones, it is unfavorable that the law, if enforced, could get him and all those 20,000 out of the hot furnaces where they slog their daylight hours. Now the first risk involved in working in front of hot or high temperature furnaces is often losing the brightness of their eyes. So first risk that it causes is for our eyes, or their eyes, their eyes. They lose the brightness of their eyes. Mukesh's eyes beam, but now Anish Jung says Mukesh's eyes beam. Beam means light up, light up. You may remember, you may recall this phrase light up. Sahab's eyes light up. When Anish Jung had said, if she started a school, would he join, right? So here Mukesh's eyes beam, become shiny as he volunteers to take me home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. Now we have already studied yesterday about the living condition of the rag pickers living in Simapuri. Now we are going to study, or we are going to know about the living condition of these bangle makers, right? So from here on, you can underline or you can mark the lines, especially for their living condition. Now Anish Jung writes here, we walk down, and now the description starts. Stinking lanes, foul smelling lanes, right? Why are they foul smelling or stinking? Because those lanes are choked with garbage, blocked with garbage, right? Past homes that remain hovels, very small rooms or huts with crumbling walls. It means breaking walls or cracked walls, right? Wobbly doors, shaky doors, weak and shaky doors, no windows, right? And above all, crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting in a primeval state, right? So animals and human beings live in the same house the way human beings lived in the earliest part of their life when they started living in houses or caves, right? So state means condition, primeval, early. So in prehistoric era, when human beings started living in caves or somewhere in shelter, they would have their pets, and they would keep those pets along with them in those caves and huts. So in the same way, these poor bangle makers keep their animals along with them in their own houses. Let's move on. He stops at the door of one such house, bangs a wobbly iron door with his foot and pushes it open. We enter a half-built shack, a kind of hut. In one part of it, thatched with dead grass, right? So you have already studied in the previous part that the structures of mud in which the rag pickers lived had a roof made of tin and tarpaulin, and here the roof is made of thatches, right? Made of dead grass, right? So in one part of it, thatched with dead grass, is a firewood stove over which sits a large vessel of sizzling spinach leaves. On the ground, in large aluminium platters, are more chopped vegetables. A frail young woman is cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with smoke, she smiles. She is the wife of Mukesh's elder brother. Not much elder in years, she has begun to command respect as the Bahu, the daughter-in-law of the house, already in charge of 3 men, her husband, Mukesh, and their father. When the older man enters, that is Mukesh's father, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall and brings her veil closer to her face. As custom demands, daughters-in-law must veil their faces before male elders. In this case, the elder is an impoverished bangle maker. Despite long years of hard labor, first as a tailor, then a bangle maker, he has failed to renovate a house, send his 2 sons to school. All he has managed to do is teach them what he knows, the art of making bangles, right? So first we get a description of a young woman, Mukesh's sister-in-law, and here we get a description of first the condition in which she is cooking. Her eyes are filled with smoke, right? She does not have the facility of having LPG at home. That is costly. So traditionally, food is cooked with the help of firewood, and the burning of firewood produces smoke, and after cooking for long years, these women also lose their eyesight, or they develop some kind of disease in their eyes, right? Traditions are followed, or customs are followed very much in these families, right? Now here the drawing the wheel, right, and all these things are there, but the important point that I want you to focus on is Mukesh's father, right? What is written about him? In this case, the elder is an impoverished bangle maker, poor bangle maker. Impoverished, made poor, right? And a question may be raised here: how can we call, you can note down this question, how can we call Mukesh's father a failed man, F-A-I-L-E-D, a failed man? How? The answer is here: despite long years. Despite long years, or you can replace despite with in spite of. So despite long years of hard labor, first as a tailor, then a bangle maker, he has failed, right? So how can we call him a failed man? In 2 ways. First, he has failed to renovate a house, and second, send his 2 sons to school, right? These are the 2 points of his failure in his life. So one point can be seen here: these are representative characters When I say representative characters, so I mean to say that same kind of situation is faced by everyone engaged in the glass bangles industry. So Mukesh's father is just a representative, right? All he has managed to do is teach them what he knows, the art of bangle making. Now the next paragraph is very important. It is his karam, his destiny, says Mukesh's grandmother, who has watched her own husband go blind with the dust from polishing the glass of bangles. Right? Can a God-given lineage ever be broken? She implies. Born in the caste of bangle makers, they have seen nothing but bangles. In the house, in the yard, in every other house, every other yard, every street in Firozabad. Spirals of bangles, sunny, gold, paddy green, royal blue, pink, purple, every color born out of the 7 colors of the rainbow, lie in mounds in unkempt yards, are piled on 4-wheel hand carts, pushed by young men along the narrow lanes of the shanty town, and in dark hutments next to lines of flames of flickering oil lamps sit boys and girls with their fathers and mothers, welding pieces of colored glass into circles of bangles. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. That is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adults. Now let's analyze this paragraph. Now we have seen in the beginning of this part that Mukesh is determined to change his profession, to change his work. He is not interested in making bangles. He is interested in becoming a motor mechanic. So he believes that he can change his destiny by action, right? And here lies the attitudinal difference between Mukesh and his family. Why I am saying so? Let's study. It is his karam, his destiny, right? Says Mukesh's grandmother. So Mukesh's grandmother is just a representative again, and she says that it is karam. It is destiny, and destiny cannot be changed. So they are fatalists. They believe in destiny, right? And as we were discussing the risks involved in working in the glass bangles industry, and we had seen that they lose the brightness of their eyes. Again, the even worse consequence is there. And what is that? It is written, says Mukesh's grandmother, who has watched her own husband go blind with the dust from polishing the glass of bangles, right? So going one step further, we can say that they not only lose the brightness of their eyes, but after working in the glass bangles industry for years, they also they also become blind. They also lose their eyesight, right? Next sentence again within inverted commas. Can a God-given lineage ever be broken? It is the explanation of the same statement made by Mukesh's grandmother. It is his karam, his destiny. It means whatever God has assigned us, whatever God has sent us for in this world, that cannot be changed, right? So this is not a belief or an opinion that is formed immediately. We have already read in the first paragraph that families have spent generations in this industry. So it may not be like that they might not have tried to change their profession, but they have failed. She implies, she means, right? So in the opinion of Mukesh's grandmother, they have been sent in the caste of bangle makers. That is why they cannot change, because this task is assigned to them by God himself, right? But Mukesh believes or thinks otherwise. He does not believe in destiny, he believes in action. Let's move on. Born in the caste of bangle makers, they have seen nothing but bangles in the house, in the yard, in every other house, every other yard, every street in Firozabad. Spirals of bangles, sunny, gold, paddy green, these are all colors, royal blue, pink, purple, every color born out of the 7 colors of the rainbow. Now it is ironical that they fill the world, that they fill the lives of people with radiant colors, but their own life is colorless. They do not enjoy any color, any vibrant color in their life, radiant color in their life. Lie in mounds in unkempt yards. Lie in mounds, heaps. Unkempt, messy, unmanaged yards are piled on the 4-wheeled hand carts. And what is the condition of young men in Firozabad? They are also engaged in the same profession. They cannot change it. And the hand carts on which these bangles are kept, they are pushed by young men along the narrow lanes of the shanty town. And in dark hutments, again you can see unfavorable working condition. Why are their eyes at so much risk? We have already read that they work in dingy cells without light and air. And here you will further see the condition in which these young children work. It is written, and in dark hutments, again, dingy cells there and dark hutments here. Next to the lines of flames of flickering oil lamps. There is no facility of electric bulbs or tube lights or anything like that. They work in front of flickering oil lamps. Sit boys and girls with their fathers and mothers welding pieces of colored glass into circles of bangles. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light. This is another risk, as these children and even the elderly ones work in front of the flames of flickering oil lamps, and there is darkness in their hutments and cells, so their eyes are more adjusted to dark even during days than to light, right? That is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adults. This is the risk involved, especially for their eyes. Now, if we think deeply, we can conclude, or we can come up with the conclusion that if they work in front of hot furnaces, high temperature furnaces for long hours and for almost the whole of their life, what will happen? Their bones will become weak, their skin will definitely burn, and because of the dirty and dingy conditions, they may also develop respiratory problem, the breathing problem, right? And unhygienic and unfavorable working condition and living condition will definitely give them some serious diseases like asthma, tuberculosis, bronchitis, etc. Right? So, what are the hazards? Number one, hazards related to eyes, which we have already discussed. They lose the brightness of their eyes. Their eyes are more adjusted to dark than to light, and they also become blind. Second, because of the heat or extreme heat, they face skin burn, they face weakness in their bones, and they also face respiratory problems and see some serious problems like asthma, bronchitis, etc. Right? So, we have discussed the answer to that question in detail. Now, let us move on. What is the condition of women or girls in Firozabad? We have already seen the condition of Mukesh's sister-in-law, right? That she has to cook in front of firewood stove. That's why her eyes are filled with smoke, right? And eventually she will also develop some kind of eye disease, right? Savita, a young girl in a drab pink dress, sits alongside an elderly woman soldering pieces of glass. I will stop wherever analysis or explanation is needed or question formation is needed. As her hands move mechanically like the tongs of a machine, I wonder if she knows the sanctity of the bangles she helps make. Sanctity, holiness, sacredness, right? And what is the importance or significance or sacredness of bangles that this young girl Savita is making or helping her mother make? It symbolizes, it means the bangles, it symbolizes an Indian woman's suhag, auspiciousness, right? Suhag means here auspiciousness. Suhag means saubhagya. So, auspiciousness or shubhata, right, in marriage. It will dawn on her, that is, she will suddenly come to understand it. She will suddenly come to understand it. She may not be aware of the importance or significance or the sacredness of these bangles now, but one day suddenly she will understand when, right? It will dawn on her suddenly. One day when her head is draped with red veil, her hands dyed red with henna, that is mehndi and red bangles rolled onto her wrists. She will then become a bride, like the old woman beside her who became one many years ago. She still has bangles on her wrist. A very beautiful sentence, a very beautiful sentence or expression explaining the condition of these poor women engaged in glass bangles industry. She still has bangles on her wrists, but no light in her eyes. right? No light in her eyes, we can explain it in two ways. Number one, because she is facing the hazard of working in dark hutments in front of flames of flickering oil lamps. And second thing, and the deeper thing is, there is no light in her eyes. It means there is no hope or happiness that can be seen in her eyes, right? And what does she say? What is the result? What is the return that they get even after working so hard in this industry? And what does she say? एक वक्त शेर भर खाना भी नहीं खाया, right? And what is its meaning? She says in a voice drained of joy. It means there is no joy that can be traced in her voice. What does she say? She says she has not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire lifetime. This is the irony. You give everything that you have to something, but you get almost nothing from it in return. That's what she has reaped, right? That's what she has reaped, means that is what she has got in return, right? Her husband, an old man with a flowing beard, says, I know nothing except bangles. All I have done is make a house for the family to live in, right? So he is a fortunate man that he has become successful in making a house, right? Hearing him, one wonders if he has achieved what many have failed in their lifetime. He has a roof over his head. That is a big thing, right? The cry of not having money to do anything except carry on the business of making bangles, not even enough to eat, rings in every home, right? So lack of money, the same problem can be heard in all the homes there, in every home there. So all the families get nothing in return, almost nothing in return. They are simply surviving somehow. They are left to live in the condition just from hand to mouth. The young men, now what's the condition of young men? The young men echo the lament of their elders. Little has moved with time. Little has moved with time. Little means hardly anything. Hardly anything. It means with time, hardly anything has changed or progressed. Little has moved with time, right? So with the passage of time, hardly anything has changed or progressed, it seems, in Firozabad, right? Years of mind-numbing toil. Years of mind-numbing toil. Toil means hard work. Mind-numbing, it's not numbing, it is numbing, right? So after working so hard for long years, their mind has become numb. Now what does this mean? It means their ability to think, their ability to dream is lost, right? They cannot think about their future. They cannot think for their betterment, right? So years of mind-numbing toil have killed all initiative and the ability to dream that I have already explained it, right? Why not organize yourselves into a cooperative? right? Remember, Anish Jung asks such type of questions to these people. Why not organize into a cooperative where it means in cooperative system you remove the role of middleman. You produce, you take the goods or the produce to the market, sell and earn the profit without any middleman, because middlemen, they are the ones who actually enjoy the maximum profit out of their work or their labor. These poor people do not get in return what they deserve. The maximum benefit or profit is consumed by the middleman, right? And he is not alone. He is not alone. There is a nexus in society, right? So let's move on and see what happens. Why not organize yourselves into a cooperative? I ask a group of young men who have fallen into the vicious circle of middlemen who trapped their fathers and forefathers, right? So vicious circle, that's what nexus is. Now what's the response of these young men? They say, even if we get organized, we are the ones who will be hauled up by the police, beaten and dragged to jail for doing something illegal, they say. So the nexus I was talking about is clear here. Middlemen have their contact with policemen, and they stop, they prevent, they keep these young men of Bengal makers community under threat. They cannot do anything that they want for themselves. They have to do, they are forced to do, they are compelled to do what the middlemen want them to do, right? These middlemen have exploited them, and not only them, but their fathers and forefathers also. Let's move on. There is no leader among them, no one who could help them see things differently. We have already read a sentence, years of mind-numbing toil and their inability to take initiative and dream for their future. Who could help them see things differently? Their fathers are as tired as they are. They talk endlessly in a spiral that moves from poverty to apathy, to greed and to injustice. So there is a spiral, circle that these poor people talk in. And where do their talks start? Their talks start from poverty, then it goes to apathy, means indifference or disinterest shown by society and political class and the authority. This is the sub-theme, right? The carelessness of political class and society to the sufferings of the poor, right? So apathy, it means disinterest or indifference, right? Then to greed of these middlemen, policemen, all, and to injustice, right? Even the legal system does not provide them justice, right? So you can Note a question here, note down a question here. That is, what is the spiral in which the poor people talk? What is the spiral that the poor people talk in? Right? It is easy. The spiral that the poor people talk in moves from poverty to apathy to greed and to injustice. Let's move on. Next paragraph. Listening to them, I see two distinct worlds. So another question, what are the two distinct worlds existing in Firozabad? What are the two distinct worlds, different worlds existing in Firozabad? So the answer is, one of the family caught in a web of poverty, burdened by the stigma of caste. Right? So one world is of exploited, the exploited, who are born in the caste of bangle makers, in which they are born. The other, the first world is of the poor exploited bangle makers, right? And the second world, the other world, a vicious circle of the sahukars, the middlemen, the policemen, the keepers of law, the bureaucrats, the officers, right, government officers or officials, and the politicians. So why has Anis Jung used the expression vicious circle of these sahukars, middlemen, policemen, keepers of law, bureaucrats and politicians? Why vicious circle? Because, see the next sentence, together they have imposed the baggage on the child that he cannot put down, right? So these people together plan to make children child laborers, and they do it forcefully. Before he is aware, he accepts it as naturally as his father. To do anything else would mean to dare, right? To do anything will mean to dare, means to challenge the system or to show courage, right? It can be explained in either way, right? It means if they want to do anything else, either they are showing courage, which is not expected by these people involved in the vicious circle, or they are showing courage or they are challenging the system, right? And daring is not part of his growing up, right? When I sense a flash of it in Mukesh, I am cheered, right? So thinking of doing anything else is not at all seen in the upbringing or in the life of poor children. But when this kind of dare, a flash of it, a courage, when this kind of courage is seen, a flash of it is seen in the eyes of Mukesh, the author Anis Jung feels cheered, feels happy, delighted. Again, Mukesh says, I want to be a motor mechanic. I want to be a motor mechanic. He insists. He says it forcefully. He says it confidently. He repeats, right? He will go to a garage and learn, right? He will go to a garage and learn. But the garage is a long way from his home. See the determination that Mukesh shows. I will walk. So he is ready to walk the distance to fulfill his dream, to come out of the vicious circle created by the people in power or the rich people there. He insists, okay. The author has deliberately used the word insist here, which she has already used in the beginning of this part, in order to show the determination of Mukesh. Now, Anish Jung asks, do you also dream of flying a plane? He is suddenly silent. No, he says, staring at the ground, looking fixedly at the ground. Why? In his small murmur, there is an embarrassment that has not yet turned into regret. Right? Mukesh feels embarrassed that till now he is not able to join a garage for fulfilling his dream. But he is not full of regret because he is still a child. His life is not spent that he may regret that he could not fulfill his dream of becoming a motor mechanic. Right? His eyes are on the ground. He is content to dream of cars that he sees hurtling down the streets of his town. So he sees only cars around him. That is why it becomes a thing of dream for him to be a motor mechanic of those cars. Right? Few airplanes fly over Firozabad. Right? So hardly any planes fly over Firozabad. Right? So our dreams are limited or restricted to what we see all around us. Right? So with this, we have finished this part. Let's discuss the questions of Think As You Read. Question number 1. What makes the city of Firozabad famous? Don't keep your answer to one sentence that bangles make the city of Firozabad famous. No, it won't fetch you 2 marks. Go back, read the first paragraph carefully, and there you can frame your answer from. Right? Question number 2. Mention the hazards of working in the glass bangles industry. We have already discussed it. Hazards or problems related to eyes, like losing the brightness of their eyes. Their eyes are more adjusted to dark than to light, and they also lose the eyesight before becoming adults. Second thing, because of the heat, they face skin burn. Because of the heat, their bones are also weak, and as they work in unfavorable conditions in small cells without fresh air, so they also develop respiratory problems. Right? Question number 3. How is Mukesh's attitude to his situation different from that of his family? We have discussed that his family believes in destiny, they are fatalists, but Mukesh believes in action. He wants to change his profession, and he believes that he can change his destiny by his firm determination and action. So with this, we have discussed all the 3 questions. Now it is up to you to complete the assignment of understanding the text. Question number 1. What could be some of the reasons for the migration of people from villages to cities? Don't keep your answer to 3-4 lines. Write an article about it in almost 200 words. Right? First, go through the content on internet or whatever source you can get. You can discuss with your elders also. So try to frame your answer in the form of an article. Question 2, would you agree that the promises made to poor children are rarely kept? Right? It was mentioned in the first part. So go there, use your common sense, read a little about it on internet, and then try to frame it. Why do you think this happens in this in the incidents narrated in the text? We have done it. You can also you have to include the Anis Jung's incident also. Third, what forces conspire to keep the workers in the bangles industry of Firozabad in poverty? So keeping the views of the young men, their condition, the condition of the poor people, elderly poor people, the child laborers, and then the vicious circle created by sahukars and all. You have to frame your answer. Now talking about the text, how in your opinion can Mukesh realize his dream? He can realize his dream by remaining positive, keeping his determination alive, and joining a garage to learn whatever is required to be a motor mechanic. Number 2, mention the hazards of working in the glass bangles industry. We have already discussed it, so there is no need of repeating the discussion. Why should child labor be eliminated and how? This is a very important question. You should write an article in 200 words on. Maybe you can exceed the word limit, 250, 300, but study the topic very carefully, very seriously, collect content, and then try to arrange and produce it in the form of an article, right? So we have finished the discussion of question answers. Now thinking about language, and you get to know the definitions of hyperbole, metaphor and simile, right? And then some sentences are there. You have to find which figure of speech is used in those sentences. So complete these assignments properly, and we can ask next week to show, right? So with this, we have finished the discussion of the lesson and the discussion on the questions of the lesson. Thank you. Study it properly. Read it as many times as you think is good for you. And if you have any queries, you can write them in the comment section. And do not forget to mention your name and section in the comment section if you have seen the video or you have studied through it. So thank you very much. Have a nice day.